Should you call yourself doctor and professor, or should you go by your first name? Should I use this title, which I now have at my disposal, should I use it as something that erects a boundary between me and the sort of the world around me, and therefore kind of proves that I am faculty now and that I'm not just an overgrown grad student? Or should I try to kind of be this young hip figure that goes by first name and is all casual and so forth? There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Let me start with the first name basis issue. Now, the instinct might be that, yeah, okay, first name basis, it is anti-hierarchical, it gets us past all of that ritual and nonsense that we would like to see less of in academia. It's more honest, I go by Tom in my regular life, so why would I want to go by something else? But there is another kind of edge to this that you do need to be aware of, which is there is hierarchy in academia and indeed in every professional setting. When you walk into that classroom and you are the only person in that classroom who has the power and the obligation and the authority to either pass or fail a student, or to give that person an A versus a B plus, that scary grade that you can give a grad student, which indicates you've kind of gone off track here, then it's a little bit disingenuous to play the role of Tom, to play the role of casual, hey, I'm just one of the bunch and so forth, and then suddenly you get to the end of the term and you put down that B plus, or you have to give someone extremely critical remarks on some or another piece of written work. It's a little bit jarring from the student's perspective to be like, whoa, you were presenting as this sort of chummy, hip, first name basis person, and now suddenly you're bringing the hammer down on me as if you were Professor Mullaney. I don't like that. I would have much rather you just been Professor Mullaney this whole time, so that I wouldn't have been lulled into a sense of, false expectations about informality. I have come down in my career on that side. Now I conduct myself in emails and in classes and in conversations as Professor Mullaney. Or Prof. Mullaney in some emails. The reason being not that I think of myself as, one of the leading, teachers at Hogwarts, but rather that I think the only thing worse than hierarchy is pretending that hierarchy doesn't exist when it does. Because that is hierarchy perverted into an even more powerful animal than it was to begin with. I would rather that if there exists hierarchy, which is real and has real impact on the world, that the least that we can do is make it visible and make people understand that it exists so that they know how to navigate it. And for that reason, if I'm in a position where I can pass or fail a student, or if I can, really come down critically on a student, or if I could sing praises of a student or give them an A plus or whatever that is, in that position, I need to be Professor Mullaney. For me, the turning point in graduate teaching is when the graduate student passes their orals examination. At that point, as part of this weird ritual, I say to that person, okay, from this point on, I'm Tom Mullaney. I'm no longer Professor Mullaney. And the reason is you have now passed this key moment in your career where courses are done and I can no longer fail you. So therefore, I still, of course, have to write you letters of recommendation. I'm still your advisor. You're still not a PhD. You're not a Jedi yet. But I can't fail you as a student. Now we have entered a relationship in which you are, in essence, a kind of junior colleague to me. And then from this point, there's more, like after orals and during the dissertation phase, you have more in common with an assistant professor and with a professor than you do with a first or a second or a third year grad student. And something about our relationship needs to change to reflect that. And for me, that is changing from Professor Mullaney to a first name basis. I came to that conclusion after a very long time of trying to navigate what it was like to be a relatively young professor when I started, and that's the one that I came down to. I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do and that everyone should stop using their first name, but do reflect that when someone in a position of power, if you are faculty, you are in a position of power, what it means for you to use your first name. And just make sure that you understand the full implications of using your first name when you are interacting with students, which, whether you like it or not, you do have a kind of authority over, at least in your own classroom, in your own, advising relations. And think to yourself, okay, I want to use my first name, but how do I do so responsibly?